My name is Quinn, and I'm currently 17 years old. However, it seems like I'm the only one who acknowledges my actual age. But don't worry, I'm about to share my story with you, and I'm confident that you'll understand my perspective soon enough. Let's dive into it. I distinctly recall when I was 15, my parents made the significant move from India to America. My father was quite affluent, so we settled in one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in the city, and I attended the most prestigious high school. My parents were incredibly generous, providing my younger sister and me with everything we desired. However, my little sister received more attention as she was my father's favorite. Despite being 3 years older, I couldn't help but envy her when she received all the praise. My interests leaned more towards partying and shopping with my friends. There was even an instance when I attended a party instead of an important exam, leading my father to deliver a stern warning. If you don't excel in school, I won't include you in my will. Suffice it to say, my academic performance was so dismal that I had to switch schools. My new school was undeniably more exciting than the previous one. It boasted more attractive guys and more outgoing girls. If I hadn't come from a wealthy background, I might have felt like an outcast, but I managed to fit in quite well. I hadn't mentioned it before, but I'm actually a fantastic dancer. I'm so skilled that I even earned the position of captain on the cheerleading squad. While I did mention that the boys at my school were remarkably attractive, there's no word to do justice to Henry, the captain of the basketball team, who was even more striking. Henry and I began dating after a memorable encounter. He approached me one day expressing, "Hey, I love your birthmark, and I think you're really cute. Would you like to hang out sometime?" That simple invitation marked the beginning of our relationship. While everything may have seemed perfect, I faced some challenges as an Indian when it came to pronouncing certain English words correctly. I had previously experienced the humiliation of mispronouncing bicycle as bicycle at my former school, leading to widespread laughter and teasing for about a week. Although I had started attending special English classes at my new school, I opted to stick to words I could pronounce accurately or simply pointed to things I wanted to discuss to avoid embarrassment. Initially, my friends found my approach a bit unusual, but they eventually grew accustomed to it. Fortunately, I felt at ease around Henry, so I didn't mind making occasional pronunciation errors in his presence, as he appeared unfazed by them. Henry and I spent a significant amount of time together, enjoying movies, trips to arcades, and live concerts. We were practically inseparable, and it seemed like you couldn't find one of us without the other nearby. Our relationship was often considered the epitome of perfection, and many envied what we had. During one of our outings, I confessed to Henry my desire to live with him on a remote island and start a family with twins. The mere thought of a life without Henry sent shivers down my spine. However, our idyllic romance took an unexpected turn when a new girl named Arya arrived at school. Arya was undeniably stunning, and though I hesitate to admit it, the entire class was captivated by her on her first day, which made me uncomfortable. One day, she approached me and casually inquired, "Hi, Quinn. I heard you're the captain of the cheerleading squad. When can I come try out?" Initially, I considered telling her that we weren't accepting new members, but a sense of rivalry got the better of me, and I seized the opportunity to challenge her. I assigned her the most difficult stunts, hoping to deter her, but to my surprise, she executed them flawlessly. She even had the audacity to inquire if that was all I had to offer. I couldn't help but feel a surge of anger, especially upon hearing locker room chatter that claimed she was better than me. One afternoon, I was seated with Henry when Arya approached us and greeted him with, "Hi Henry, I'm a big fan of yours. Can I take a picture with you?" Naturally, Henry didn't decline, and he even requested that I take the picture. Arya's behavior, however, became increasingly uncomfortable as she clung to him, hugging him as if he were her boyfriend. I couldn't bear it any longer and firmly instructed her to remove her hands from him. Her response was unexpected. She burst into tears as if I were the villain in this situation. Henry consoled her with a hug and offered his apologies. Arya shot me disdainful glances, mirroring Henry's actions. That was the moment when a chilling thought crossed my mind. It seemed as if she had been sent from some malevolent place with the sole intention of taking everything from me. Henry and I had planned to watch a movie one evening, but he canceled, citing a family meeting. Feeling bored and not wanting to remain at home, I reached out to my friends to see if we could hang out. Much to my dismay, they informed me that Arya had already invited them to a karaoke night at a bar. Curiosity piqued, I decided to join them, hoping to discern why Arya held such appeal compared to me. Upon arriving at the bar, I noticed Henry's car parked outside. Perplexed, I parked my own car across from the bar and attempted to call him, but he ignored all my calls. Moments later, I witnessed him exiting the bar, with Arya wrapped around his waist, sharing laughter and intimate gestures that only lovers would exchange. An overwhelming surge of emotions propelled me to approach them. As I began walking toward them, a drunk driver struck me, propelling me into oncoming traffic. A second vehicle collided with me, resulting in a devastating impact that crushed my skull and rendered me unconscious. This horrific accident was the catalyst for the coma I subsequently entered. My first recollection of awakening was marked by a profound sense of disorientation. I initially believed I had simply roused from a deep slumber, only to discover myself covered in medical apparatus and surrounded by my elated family. Upon inquiring about the duration of my unconsciousness, they revealed that I had been in a coma for a staggering 13 years. I was now 30 years old, and the realization brought tears to my eyes as I grappled with the monumental task of catching up with everyone and life itself. My little sister had successfully graduated from college and secured a high-paying job, leaving me envious even in my incapacitated state. The doctors were initially optimistic, informing my parents that they would release me once some final tests were conducted. However, the following day, I suddenly lost the ability to speak, slipping back into a coma from which I would never awaken again. Well, not until now, 20 years later. Did you know that it's possible for someone to emerge from a coma for a brief period before returning to it? Now you do. You're welcome. So how did I finally regain consciousness? Everyone, including the medical experts, had nearly given up hope of my ever waking up again. That was when my sister recalled my fondness for music and decided to try something unconventional. She acquired a pair of headphones and gently placed them over my ears. Although I don't recall much from my time in the coma, I distinctly heard a familiar song playing and instinctively followed the sound. Astonishingly, I opened my eyes. The doctor explained that over the years, my brain had gradually rewired itself, forming enough connections to facilitate my awakening. However, my sister firmly believes that it was the music that played a pivotal role in rousing me. Did you know that some individuals can wake up from a coma and suddenly speak a foreign language fluently? It's known as bilingual aphasia, a phenomenon that occurs when damage affects one language center in the brain while another remains untouched. In my case, I struggled to communicate in my native language, rendering me unable to respond when my sister addressed me in it. To my surprise, I found myself effortlessly conversing in English, a language I had previously struggled with. It felt like a linguistic awakening. When I inquired about my parents' whereabouts, I was met with the somber revelation that they had passed away 5 years prior. My father had left behind a considerable inheritance, but the majority of it had been allocated to cover my extensive medical expenses. My sister had married and raised 2 grown children during the intervening years. Her appearance had aged significantly, to the extent that I even mistook her for one of the nurses when I initially regained consciousness. In that poignant moment, I was overwhelmed with guilt for having harbored envy and resentment toward her over the years. After all, she had been the sole constant presence during my prolonged ordeal. Following a few weeks of additional care at home, I was eventually discharged from the hospital. Upon returning home, the very first thing I did was gaze into the mirror, beginning the process of reacquainting myself with the life that awaited me. My reflection in the mirror nearly startled me out of my skin. "This can't be me," I exclaimed, desperately seeking confirmation that it was all a terrible dream. My physical appearance now resembled that of a 47-year-old, yet my thoughts and feelings remained firmly rooted in the mind of a 17-year-old. When I confided in my therapist about this bewildering predicament, she attributed it to a condition known as post-coma syndrome. I initially doubted her diagnosis, but my perspective shifted after attending my niece's 16th birthday party. At the celebration, I decided to engage in some youthful activities to gauge my newfound reality. To my surprise, my niece's friends were genuinely impressed by my ability to act and converse as though I were still 17. They found me intriguing and full of stories about the past. Everything had changed from what I remembered. My once favorite band had aged and disbanded, and the gadgets I had grown up with, such as the Walkman and Game Boy, had been replaced by items my sister referred to as iPods and PlayStations. The world was vastly different, and I was overwhelmed by the rapid changes. During one interaction, I asked my niece's daughter if I could use Netscape Navigator on her phone, which elicited laughter as she confessed to not knowing what that was. Nonetheless, she kindly taught me how to navigate today's popular browsers and social media platforms, helping me adapt to the modern digital landscape. Then, one day, I observed my niece engrossed in a video on her phone, piquing my curiosity. It turned out to be a video from a channel called My Story Animated, featuring a story about a girl who had experienced a coma. The channel captivated my interest, and my niece playfully remarked, "Maybe you should send your own story to them." I took her suggestion seriously and promptly reached out to the channel to share my incredible journey. My story was met with enthusiasm by the folks at My Story Animated, and I felt compelled to share it as a sort of open diary, partly out of a lingering fear that I might wake up one day and forget who I truly am. Amid my quest for answers, I couldn't help but wonder about Henry's whereabouts. However, my sister had little information to offer, revealing only that he had ceased visiting me in the hospital after just 1 year. I couldn't contain my fury at the thought that he had spent only a single year by my side during my 3-decade-long ordeal, especially considering that he was indirectly responsible for my coma. My desperation led me to resort to Instagram stalking, attempting to uncover any traces of his life. Eventually, I managed to ascertain his workplace and decided to pay him an inconspicuous visit. Upon reaching his office, I encountered resistance as they refused to grant me access without an appointment. I was adamant about concealing my true identity from him, so I lingered, patiently waiting for the opportune moment when he would leave for lunch. However, when the opportunity arose, the individual I approached wasn't Henry, it was someone entirely different. I had been mistakenly stalking a stranger on Instagram throughout those weeks. Following my fruitless endeavors, my sister unexpectedly announced that she had located Henry. She implored me to refrain from making rash decisions and, after a pledge to exercise restraint, she disclosed that he frequented a particular coffee shop every morning. Eager to confront him, I visited the coffee shop the following morning, repeatedly checking the image she had shown me to ensure I wouldn't overlook him. Upon spotting me, Henry initially failed to recognize me until his gaze fixed upon the birthmark on my cheek, at which point he appeared as if he had seen a ghost. We engaged in a conversation, during which I demanded an explanation for his infidelity and his failure to visit me in the hospital. His surprise at my tenacious hold on these grievances, even after countless years, was palpable. Nonetheless, he mustered an apology and requested that we meet again the following day. However, when the appointed time arrived, Henry was conspicuously absent, leaving me once more in a state of uncertainty and disappointment. Weeks turned into a monotonous routine of disappointment, as it became increasingly evident that Henry had ceased visiting the coffee shop, likely due to my presence. The pain of this realization weighed heavily on me, and my sister urged me to let go, arguing that Henry had already offered his apologies. However, I was far from satisfied with a mere "I'm sorry" from the man whose actions had caused me 30 years of coma-induced lifelessness. Frustratingly, no one was willing to provide me with any information about his whereabouts, not even the coffee shop that had been his frequent haunt for years. The unrelenting ache within me intensified, leading to a descent into depression. Despite Henry's maturation and the passage of time, my 17-year-old heart remained steadfastly in love with him. My sister, recognizing the toll it was taking on me, took the initiative to arrange personal counseling to help me combat my persistent sadness. The counseling played a pivotal role in stabilizing my emotional state, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness that had enveloped me. Desiring to regain some semblance of a normal life, I contemplated pursuing a job, only to realize that I needed a diploma to achieve this goal. The thought of returning to school at my age was a daunting prospect, as I could hardly fathom sitting in a classroom alongside students half my age, many of whom were even older than some of the teachers. Despite my reservations, I made the decision to embark on this educational journey. On my first day of class, some of my fellow students mistook me for their new teacher, but when they realized their error, they reacted with surprising understanding and kindness, refraining from making a fuss. In fact, some of them affectionately referred to me as their surrogate mother away from home. While it felt peculiar to be regarded as an elder when I knew I was not, I chose not to disclose my true age, as explaining, "Hey guys, I'm actually 17, trapped in this old body," seemed like an impossibility. Above all, I could not bear the thought of being labeled as crazy. Over time, my obsession with Henry gradually waned and I found myself on the path to healing. However, fate had other plans in store for me when I encountered a doppelganger of Henry in a coffee shop. He appeared to be enjoying the company of a beautiful woman, engaging in laughter and subtle affectionate gestures that instantly reminded me of the time I had caught him with Aria. Reluctant to risk another embarrassing encounter, I hesitated briefly. However, the uncanny resemblance urged me on, and I approached him cautiously, my hand reaching out to tap his shoulder. As he pivoted to face me, the shock in his eyes swiftly transformed into a furrowed brow. He questioned whether I had been trailing him, and I was poised to retort. It was then that I noticed the glint of a ring adorning his finger, a detail I had missed in our previous encounter. It hit me like a sobering revelation. He had moved on. An overwhelming surge of anger coursed through me, fueled by the realization that he had seemingly found contentment after abandoning me during my hospitalization. Beneath my breath, I seethed at him, branding him a monster before delivering a final spiteful glare to his companion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Facebook the go-to platform for tracking someone down? At least that's what one of my classmates had suggested, and it proved to be remarkably effective. My singular objective was to glean more information about the woman at his side, whom I suspected to be his wife. However, my discovery was not merely shocking, it was downright infuriating. It turned out that Henry was not only in a relationship but was married to none other than Aria. My initial shock quickly transmuted into a seething anger as I perused their profiles and encountered photos of their seemingly perfect life with 2 teenage sons. The life I had once envisioned for myself, that should have been mine, had been realized by them. A powerful desire for revenge began to burn within me, even after the passage of 30 long years. Discovering Aria's social media presence, I struggled to restrain myself from inundating her pictures with venomous comments. The urge for retaliation was relentless, and I couldn't let go of the past's grip on my emotions. Recalling the woman I had seen at the cafe, inspiration struck me like lightning. Though I anticipated challenges in executing my plan since Henry wouldn't likely return to the same cafe, fate seemed to conspire in my favor. After several weeks of absence, he reappeared at the cafe with the same woman in tow. Seizing the perfect moment, I discreetly raised a menu to shield myself from their view and surreptitiously recorded them sharing an intimate kiss. Knowing the importance of anonymity, I had refrained from using my real name or personal photographs on Facebook. With haste, I uploaded the video and tagged both Aria and Henry. My post bore the caption, "A cheater never changes with Henry, and what goes around comes around with Aria." It didn't take long for the post to gain traction, racking up hundreds of views and comments, including some that were hateful and sorrowful from Aria and Henry. In the end, I had successfully exacted my long-awaited revenge.